motorbike offers the purest relationship between man and engine. It's basically an engine you can sit on. And ever since man first sat on his engine and rode it, he's been trying to go faster and faster.
So, how did we get from the first bone-shaking speed machines of 100 years ago to this?
Virtually a rocket you can straddle!
Motorbikes aren't about practicality. They're ridden for the sheer thrill of it. They bind their riders in a shared spirit of adventure.
For many riders, the horseman out on the range became the rider astride his iron horse out on the open road. But where did the all-powerful iron horse come from? It all started with this, the bicycle, and this, the internal combustion engine. Both were invented round about the same time at the end of the 19th century. Put them together, and you've got a motorbike.
One of the first motorbike pioneers was Gottlieb Daimler in the 1880s, before he abandoned them for the more practical car. But there was no shortage of thrill-seeking inventors who carried on trying to squeeze an internal combustion engine into a bike frame.
The internal combustion engine was perfect for powering the new motor bicycle because unlike the steam engine, it was small, light, and the principle behind it was fairly simple. What happens is a mixture of fuel and air is sucked into the cylinder via a carburettor. That mixture is then squashed or compressed by the rising piston, and then the mixture is ignited by this electric spark plug. The resulting explosion forces the piston down many thousand times a minute. So, bang, bang, bang.
To bikers, the size of the engine, measured in cubic centimeters or cc's, is very much a bike's badge of power. The massive engine on this very early bike has a volume of 100 cc's and generates 1 horsepower.
Which, compared to even a small lawnmower today, isn't much. But to think this little metal box of tricks down here could do the same amount of lifting work as 1 pit horse in 1 hour is quite incredible. I'm going flat tanking on this baby now, boy.
But an engine and a bicycle on their own didn't make a screaming motorbike.
One of the first problems to solve was how to get the power from the engine to the rear wheel. In the early days, this is what they used. Boiled leather belt drives. Bikers liked belts. They were quiet, light, and cheap. But there was a problem with belts. They slipped, especially in the rain when you were trying to go up a hill. Enter the chain. At first, bikers didn't like chains. They were noisy, heavy, and expensive. But they were the future.
Didn't slip and lets you get more power to the back wheel.
20 years of bike engine development followed. Everything possible was done to maximize performance and power.
First, engineers decided that it was best to put the engine low down in the frame, just as on this 1905 Norton, a machine that was cutting edge for its day.
Norton founded his company in Birmingham in 1898, supplying components to the newfangled motorcycle trade. He was an engineering genius, and by 1907, his machines were winning the classic Isle of Man TT motorbike races. And for the next 60 years, Nortons were at the forefront of bike engineering.
James Lansdowne Norton was the grandfather of British motorcycling. Jimbo, my son, you're a veritable diva.
Like a lot of early machines, the massive engines behind Norton's TT winning bikes had just 1 cylinder. An engine type limited by how big you can build 1 cylinder before it shakes itself to destruction.
Single-cylinder engines are not ideal in the search for power. You can only make them so big. 500cc is about the optimum size for a big single-cylinder motorcycle, which is what this Norton International is. And to be honest with you, A single-cylinder bike delivers power in a soul-soothing kind of way, unlike any other bike. And a big British single is an excellent ride once you get it started. Here goes. Right, let's just tickle the carb a bit. There we go. Get some fuel in the float chamber. There we are. OK, let's feel for a bit of compression there, and then just ease it slightly over compression. There we go. Bit of retard on it. And there we are. I think all adjustments are now made. We've got to keep them going, though.
I've been addicted to bikes since I was a teenager, and amongst single-cylinder machines, this 1955 Norton is one of my favourites. But lovely as single cylinders are, you can only build them so big. For a bigger engine, you need more cylinders. Like this beauty at the Sammy Miller Museum.
Look at this, absolutely magnificent 1916 Henderson. It's got 4 cylinders in a line, 1, 2, 3, 4, a total capacity of 950 cc's. That's twice the capacity of the Norton and a similar capacity to many of today's small cars. And it developed a staggering 7 horsepower.
As the early bike engineers soon found out, although a 4-cylinder engine like this gives you more power, it still has one major drawback: keeping it cool.
So, as the bike rushes forward, the oncoming air has no problem cooling the front 2 cylinders, but the cylinders at the back are sheltered and consequently get really hot.
Building a huge engine you could keep cool and squeeze into a bike frame needed radical thinking. A brilliantly simple solution first appeared around 1903. Which of the many bike inventors working away in their sheds came up with it is something of a mystery. But soon, this big engine was everywhere. I've got one in my old Indian.
A lot of engineers settled on the configuration of V-twin in those early days.
This was the perfect, efficient way of squeezing power into a motorcycle frame.
Instead of 4 cylinders, it's got 2, arranged at an angle. It fits like a glove into the shape of a bike frame and allows air to flow round it, keeping it cool.
In a V-twin, the pistons can be very big because the stresses and vibrations in one cylinder are cancelled out by those in the other.
In 1926, George Brough, a man who had a reputation for making the Rolls-Royce of motorcycles, managed to squeeze a massive V-twin into the frame of his Brough Superior SS100.
George Brough used a V-twin engine to create the world's first superbike. This monster has a massive capacity of 1,000 cc and produces a staggering 74 horsepower. That sort of power wouldn't be out of place on a modern superbike.
So, what do you do with all that power? Well, in the case of this bike, the Brough Superior SS100, you ride at 100 miles an hour. This was the first bike guaranteed to go at 100 miles an hour.
But there was speed and there was massive.
Bikes don't come much more massive than the Harley-Davidson. Harleys use the V-twin too, but instead of using it to make bikes with smooth, flexible power suited to the twisting roads of Europe, the Americans harnessed it for its pure grunt. And it was here that the V-twin grew to a gargantuan size.
America's long, straight roads, often poorly surfaced, with big distances between towns, demanded a machine with an engine powerful enough to run effortlessly for hours and 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 hours.
The V-twin, with its potential for massive size, fitted the bill perfectly. Bill Harley and the notorious Davidson brothers had started making motorcycles in 1903 and soon adopted the V-twin engine as their own. They made big bikes in their shed. Very big bikes. For their monster machines, engines of 1000cc were regarded as toys, and V-twins of 1200cc or even 1400cc, a vast, vast size, became the norm. With an engine this size, you can cruise effortlessly for miles and miles and miles, and the Harley has attracted its own unique following. But a big engine has other attributes too. Drag racing. They're getting ready to go. There's a red light, a yellow light, and green!
From a standstill to the quarter-mile mark, the huge buckets of torque provided by the massive pistons going up and down gave this bike a pretty decent acceleration time.
0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, to be precise. When drag racing took off as an illegal backstreet sport in the 40s, it was Harley-Davidsons that formed its backbone. These truly massive V-twins have a cult following. But there's a group of bikers whose machines are even bigger. Evening all. A motorbike is an engine you can sit on. And massive bikes are heavy engines you can just about straddle. Riding something this big is a real art. This lot ride the heaviest bikes on the road.
And I'm off to join them. Sergeant Les Brown.
Chris, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, sir.
I understand, Chris, you've got a driving licence.
I have.
Stable of bikes?
2 or 3 old clunks at home, yes.
We've got to make sure you can see.
Have we? Oh, right.
Eyesight test.
Where's the eyesight test then?
Off we go.
Right, this way.
Just stand with your toes on the black line there.
Okay.
Excellent, no cheating, that's it. And
HOU, AVTXY, UHYOAIV.
that's excellent, thank you. That exceeds the standard, well done.
Small, tight circles, keeping your machine under full control at slow speed.
This bike's like a two-wheeled car. It has to carry enough equipment and power supplies to be used as a command post at crime scenes. All the extra weight's high up, making it really difficult to balance.
Balance. How to balance your machine at ultra-low speeds, keeping it under full control.
And all I want you to do is to just watch what I'm doing on the bike in front and just see if you can copy it.
Yes.
Good.
And if I think, oh, I don't want to try that at all, I'll just wait till we get to the other end of the road.
Yes, that's what I want to see, a confident smile. Nearly.
OK.
Well done, Chris.
Balancing like this is pretty difficult, and even the saddle's not a safe place to be.
Ooh, poor bike.
Side saddle. You get this wrong, there's no way you can get your feet down. Can you spot which one's me?
It was in 1758 that police officers, realising the need for mobility to catch the naughty people, bought the first 2 horses for the police station in London. Horses, in that case a massive 105 horsepower motorcycle, have played a part in police mobility ever since. Not as much room in here as Tom Baker had me believe.
Official training for mobile officers started in the 1930s after the police, in hot pursuit, had built up a scarily high accident rate. A cunning plan. For their chief instructor, they hired one of the best and safest motor racing drivers of his day, the Earl of Cottenham. He basically wrote the police training manual. Roadcraft. It's still a bestseller.
And now it's time for the cone test. Let's see how much our candidates learned after 1 day's full instruction. So if I come to a tricky section of cones,
okay,
attempt them.
If you're not happy, what I would say is stop, because that's what you'd do in the main road, wouldn't it? You know,
Yes.
you wouldn't carry on and hit the back of the Porsche or whatever. You'd say, no, I'm going to stop and sort this out.
Sensible.
And that's exactly what you wanted to do here. Reflect reality.
Okay.
All right, mate.
That's sensible, isn't it? I like sense.
This is so much harder than it looks, believe me. At such slow speeds, these bikes are almost impossible to balance. Of course, you need the right technique and a lot of practice too. But you've really got to concentrate.
Well, as you see, it's not as easy as it looks. Well, let's face it, I failed dismally that bollard test, and that's the easy one. So, next time you see the boys in blue on the bikes, a bit of admiration, please.
But there's one thing I'd struggle to catch, even on this massive 105 brake horsepower police engine.
I give you the mighty World Superbike Champion machine, the Ducati 999!
Its V-twin engine generates a staggering 139 brake horsepower. Yet terrifyingly, it weighs less than half the police bike. Since the World Superbike Championships began in 1988, Ducati of Italy have won more races than all the other manufacturers put together. They've made their name with high-tech road races, renowned as being nearly all engine, with just the minimum number of bits attached.
Oh, hello, we're going now. We'll lift, up you. Yeah, you wouldn't want to commute on this bike. Oh, phenomenal pace. I don't know what gear I'm in, but it ain't much. I've still got about 57 to go, and God knows, the throttle's barely open.
This road-going 999 is what the Ducati race bike is based on.
Look at it. It's doing 200 miles an hour just standing still. But what makes it go so fast? Well, let's defair the beast to reveal the gorgeousness. Now, this engine is just dripping with engineering genius.
This Ducati Testa Stretta engine is probably the fastest, most advanced V-twin engine on the planet. Everything is high-tech.
Take the valves, for example. This engine has 4 valves per head. That's 4 here and 4 over here. Now, on most bikes, the valves are powered open and then rely on a spring to close. Not the case with these valves. They're powered open and powered closed. The result? The bike can rev much more highly and ultimately give it a lot more power.
Power is just full on immediately. It gives you a good impression of just what an amazingly tight and business-like engine this is. This is the joy of power.
Its engine is only 1,000 cc, but it's brilliantly engineered for pure power.
Take the pistons. This engine has 2 of them, 1 in here and 1 in here. Now, the crown of these pistons are flat, which is now known to give the best flame front for the exploding fuel inside the cylinders. Result, more bang for your buck.
Very lovely. Very lovely. Unlike anything I've ever ridden, that's for sure.
Even the bizarre exhaust system is cunningly designed for maximum power.
In a perfect world, the exhaust pipes from each cylinder should be the same length to give an optimum balanced performance. But on this machine, that's not the case. The exhaust pipe from the front cylinder is much longer than the exhaust pipe from the rear cylinder. The gases from this cylinder have a much longer journey to make into the muffler than the gases from the rear cylinder. So to compensate, the bore of the front exhaust pipe is 45 millimetres here and then opens up to 55 millimetres, whereas the bore of the shorter exhaust pipe remains constant at 45 millimetres.
And with this layout, the two exhaust pipes work as if they're the same length and can be fed into a single muffler, giving more torque. Great news for accelerating out of corners fast.
Oh, bloody amazing! You've got to watch the old speed bumps, though. You've got to have soft arms and soft legs. And even then, your balls get crushed.
139 horsepower from an engine that weighs little more than a feather. It's an amazing 139 times more powerful than that first bicycle and engine combination of over 100 years ago.
This is a bike that you need to get on an empty road on a Sunday morning at about 6 o'clock in the middle of summer and just go.
And when you eventually come back, maybe weeks later, you will have a grin on your face.
Oh, yes, this is power. If you're ever having a bad day, you get on this and do that, you're happy. You're happy.
Are you happy today? Valentine's Day, so what's your favourite love song then? Is it a Celine Dion or perhaps Renee and Renata's Save Your Love? Remember that? Perhaps not. Check out Britain's favourite love songs after a 5 News update.